Hi there. Um, let's look at Cardano. So this is the Wyckoff pattern on the weekly chart, and after this we'll look at the daily because we know the daily is governed by the bigger movements on the weekly. So last week we talked about distribution, late stage or mid stage if an upthrust ever happens. If this is really going all the way to an upthrust, then we're at somewhat mid stage. But it can also be an accumulation going on. Like I said, this level was where the accumulation started back in 2022. But then the current fluctuation is still developing. So it's still a bit of a question mark whether this is a preliminary support, because as expected there would be price fluctuations, but this pump over here is pretty high. If it continues to go like this and eventually comes down, then we can confirm this is more like a preliminary support. Otherwise it can be a build up back to an upthrust, but this one we are not absolutely sure yet. The volume itself over here is high, but then it's not as high as these ones. So it's only a fraction of whatever we had around November last year. So for now, the immediate resistance would be at this 80 cents level. So it's when we get to the daily, we get a more detailed picture whether it's trending towards that resistance line. And obviously the support line is at around 64 cents. So basically, if this is a preliminary support, expect the price to fluctuate along this white line over here. If this is not, if this is building up towards the upthrust, hopefully we'll see it find support above the white line and then eventually breaks above the purple. So let's quickly take a look at the daily and see what it's telling us. On last Friday, that's a very high volume bar, very tall volume bar over here, and it may or may not be a good news because of this long wick at the top, because that means when the price reaches around 77 cents, there was quite a bit of selling pressure. So if we look at the distribution over here, this period is basically a preliminary supply period that we're going through. So last time it took around 10 days, 12 days before it eventually reached the buying climax from the PSY period. This time the PSY looks a bit different compared to this one, but you know, we expect fluctuations during that period. So it may have a bit of retracement. That is totally possible. However, if we look at the volume over here compared to here, other than this very tall bar, they look more or less similar or just a bit lower than what we had in May. So if a new buying climax ever happens and the volume doesn't follow, the new buying climax would at most be at a similar level at around 83-84 cents, or even just like a tiny bit lower, and then it will come down and retest again. So there was a second test last time over here. Let me tag it as well while we are here. So that's pretty much it for Cardano. Expect more fluctuations and hopefully for some upside movements for the next few days. If it comes down from the high, that's totally understandable because that's the normal, like, automatic reaction from the buying climax. So this retracement down here, that's something we call automatic reaction from Wyckoff analysis perspective. So if a new buying climax ever comes, it's expected that an automatic reaction would happen and the price would come down. This at around 64 cents would then become a support line. So I talk about the trend. So this downward trend box, it's over, given what the price has been climbing outside the box while closing well above it. Currently what we're seeing is this trend a bit upwards, not as crazy, on the slope isn't as steep as the decline. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more upward movements, and if it really climbs to this yellow line, that would possibly be around the next 2 to 3 weeks time. So